What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BlackTideTV, some more Call of Duty World War II for you, and I'd like to read you guys a rather disturbing article I found on Kotaku Australia about the Australian version of Call of Duty World War II being modified to censor an implied sexual assault scene. It's really rather stupid. You'll be laughing at this by the time I'm through this article. This isn't immediate news. It's not brand new. This article was published on the 19th of October, and I have seen it in the past, and I didn't really give it any thought until I finally actually looked at the article myself, and it's just like, are you fucking serious? And I am going to be swearing, I'm going to be talking dirty in this fucking video because it's already going to be demonetized. It's a Call of Duty World War II video, and I'm talking about sexual assault, so I mean, come on. So this article, we'll just read through the article for starters, and then we'll talk about it a little later in the video. Earlier this week, people noticed something odd about the classification rating for Call of Duty World War II in Australia. It was first rated R18+ in August and rated R18+ again on Monday in October. So why did Activision ask the classification board to re-rate the game in the first place? If you filter the recent decisions on the classification board's website, you can see one small difference in the rating for Call of Duty World War II, namely the inclusion of, quote, threat of sexual violence. Obviously, this was referring to something in the campaign, but what changed? I emailed the classification board and they replied that Activision had submitted a modified version of Call of Duty World War II. On 13th of October 2017, Activision Publishing applied to the Australian Classification Board to classify a modified version of the game Call of Duty World War II, the board said via email. On 17 October 2017, the Australian Classification Board classified the modified game R18+ with consumer advice of high-impact violence and online interactivity. So what changed? According to the Classification Board, the original version of Call of Duty World War II contained, quote, a reference to sexual violence that is justified by context, but not visually displayed or incentivized. In one section of the game, the player controls Rosso, a female spy, as she infiltrates a German building. While inside, she witnesses a woman as she is dragged by a Nazi soldier into a closet against her will, screaming, "You are all pigs." Rosso opens the closet door as the soldier says, "Leave, this is none of your business." The player is then given the option to kill the soldier or leave. If the player chooses to leave, the player closes the door as the soldier is heard unzipping his fly and viewed advancing towards the woman. She screams, "Ah, get away from me," as Rosso leaves. It is implied that the soldier is going to sexually assault the woman, but at no time is the assault depicted. Pretty straightforward as far as the classification board's justification for a warning of threat of sexual violence goes. According to the board, Activision's modified version of the game altered the woman's clothing. It also removed the audio track of the NPC soldier unzipping his fly. In the board's opinion, the modifications to this game, which include the change of dress for the female prisoner, who was in a skirt and top, is now in a pants and top, and the removal of audio that implies a soldier is unzipping his pants, do not contain any classifiable elements that alter this classification or exceed an R18+ impact level. In the board's opinion, the removal of the audio track means that consumer advice of threat of sexual violence is not required. Therefore, this modified computer game warrants an R18+ classification with consumer advice of high-impact violence and online interactivity. This game is rated R18+, Mature 17+, Peggy 18. This is a game made for adults. People 17, 18 years of age and older, and we can't contain a small scene of implied sexual violence. Implied. We don't even see the sexual violence. Have you seen the type of television shows, the type of movies, and all kinds of shit that's out there nowadays? Did you know that in like 99% of countries, you can legally watch porn at 18 years old, but you can't see an implied sexual scene in a game rated R18 in Australia? I know the rules for rating games and stuff is different depending on where you are in the world, and maybe Australia is a little less lenient to the sexual violence stuff, but it already has high impact violence, and obviously this is a big thing in America and a big thing in like the Western states, is that everything is good as far as violence goes. You can have the most bloody, gory, disgustingly nasty, like biological violence in a movie ever, But if you have one little sex scene, that instantly boosts the rating and it makes it like super not okay and you can't talk about sex. But even still, this is an 18+ game, and it's time to stop pandering to the children, because the argument here is that, oh well, it's an 18+ game, but the majority of our audience is 12-year-olds, and we know, of course, we play Call of Duty, we know the audience, we know that there's a lot of younger children out there that play this game, for whatever reason, and they really shouldn't be. The online stuff isn't so bad, apart from maybe blood and violence, some cursing from some of the characters, the NPCs, the other players, but for the most part, children should not be playing this game as it's a mature game, especially in some of those campaign sequences in some of the previous Call of Duty games. It can get pretty violent, pretty bloody, pretty gory, pretty serious. And the game is rated as such. It's supposed to be for adults. Adults that can experience these implied sexual assault scenes and not be scarred for life. Even still, if a 12-year-old is playing this game and they hear a fly being unzipped and a character saying, ah, no, get away from me, and you don't get to see anything, it shouldn't be an issue, because a kid that's that young wouldn't even understand what's happening. Meanwhile, us, who are older, the people that are supposed to be playing this game, we understand what's happening, and that's fine, because it's supposed to be a realistic game, and I can guarantee you, I haven't brushed up on my history in a while, but I can guarantee you that the Nazis did a whole lot worse than raping women. I can guarantee you that. They had fucking gas chambers, they did a lot of heinous shit. One little rape, not even a rape, it's an implied sexual assault, not a rape. But even still, one little rape, which I don't want to say it like that because, of course, it's a big bad thing to do, to commit rape. But still, one little rape in the eyes of the entire fucking heinous crimes that the Nazis committed in a quote-unquote semi-realistic game. Like, their whole thing with World War II is to make the game super realistic. So if they're going to include that sexual scene, they might as well just include the freaking sexual scene, because of course it's going to happen. Of course that happened, and it's an 18+ game. Game of Thrones is 18+. There's a rape in the first episode of the first season. Orange is the New Black, I've been watching that recently on Netflix. There's rape in that. It's MA17 TV rating. It's a 17-year-old rating, and there's nudity and sex and violence and rape. All kinds of stuff like that happening in that show every other episode. Game of Thrones, there's people getting raped, there's nudity, there's sex, there's violence in every single episode. So what's the big deal that we have one tiny little scene of sexual violence in this game? And that doesn't even get me started on the removal of the swastika and all of those Nazi imagery symbols. I've seen a ton of other YouTubers talk about this, so I don't think I need to get into it too deep. But it's supposed to be a realistic game. It's supposed to be this big, this reincarnation of Call of Duty World War II that we're supposed to play through, but they're getting rid of all of the swastikas. I'm pretty sure the swastika was a pretty big part of the Nazi regime. They're going to be using the Iron Cross, which isn't as offensive, but it still gets the same meaning across or whatever, but removing the swastikas instantly makes this game not as realistic. I hate to tell you guys over there at Activision Sledgehammer Games, but if you want a realistic game, you can't pull any punches. Just because the Germans might be a little upset, like the German audience, they are not allowed to even see swastikas as far as I know. Like, they're not allowed to have that kind of Nazi imagery in their country whatsoever. Like, it's a punishable offense as far as I know. But still, if you're just going to lose out on the German audience, like, maybe make a small little modified game version for the German audience. Make it an update. When the second the game comes out, you get an update and it removes all the swastikas from the game, and you cannot revert that update. You must go through with that if you're in Germany. But everywhere else, we should not be suffering because of Germany's little issue with the swastika, because we're taking away what history really was. I know it's a made-up game, but they're trying to make it realistic, and they can't be taking away parts of the actual war, things that actually happened, like rapes and swastikas, if they want it to be realistic. Because that's tarnishing history. That's like how they teach history nowadays. Like, they want to teach history, but they need to defend our little children and all the SJWs from the terrifying truth of what happened. Well, what happened, and we need to talk about it like that so that it doesn't happen again. That's the whole point of it. So, removing sexual assault in the game, removing rape scenes and all that kind of stuff, removing the swastikas, all the Nazi imagery, it's wrong. If they want to make a realistic game, they should make a realistic game, and it's an R18+. Stop pandering to the fucking children that are playing this game. If you're 12, you shouldn't be playing this game. And it shouldn't fall on the developers' hands to properly parent the fucking children of the world. The parents out there should not be letting their kids play a game made for adults. But that's all I have to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.